Well, I returned from one of my doctor's appointments yesterday just to find out that my radiator, I have it up on ramps right now. So it was leaking all along up on there and spitting out all over here, all over every place. What I did is got home real fast. The overflow was empty. I put radiator fluid there and I filled up, and then went up and down one of the local roads here. Didn't seem to have a problem. But when I got back and noticed that where I normally park in the driveway is all wet over there. So don't like that at all, since we're so close to the water here. I don't like stuff going on the ground. So what I did is I put a hose in here and kind of held my hand over it to try pressurizing, and it spewed out right there. Okay, so when I got underneath this thing, and I do have a flashlight, some sort of light. There's a lot of light down there anyway. So let me. I am trying my best here. I'm supposed to be in a wheelchair, and it's very hard for me to move around. So let me get under here, and you can see up in here, it's really wet. All along there is really wet. Okay, I mean everywhere over here is wet. Everywhere is wet. I'm worried about getting it on the camera. So the thing I wanted to do was check the hoses, and the hoses seem like they're good, because once it heated up, the hoses would actually cause a lot of problems. But there's no cracks in it. They respond nicely. So I'm not going to worry about that. I probably will change the hoses out since I'm changing the radiator, because it's just good sense. You're going to drain the whole thing anyway. And if your thermostat is over 100,000 miles or so, you may want to do that as preventative maintenance. This is in that housing right down there. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you how to gain access to this. I'm just going to buy the Chilton book. I've done this once before, a long time ago. I have over 250,000 miles on this guy, so it's well worth doing. Now, it doesn't come with the new radiator. It says it on there, and even ones from the stores, it does not come with a radiator cap. So make sure you don't throw that away. All right. So it's going to be about a week or so before I get that. So I'm going to just put this aside, set it aside, and get working on when the item comes in. Hey, while you're searching all the websites and finding out that a radiator for a 2001 Jeep Wrangler, or probably any other older Jeep Wranglers, run about $130 or so. Here's one from 6376, free shipping, and it's coming from New York. I live in Maryland, so it's scheduled to be here right now. The date is August 8th, and coming from New York to Maryland is probably going to be well before the 13th. I'm hoping like Monday or Tuesday instead of Wednesday. So to me, it's worth waiting. I can make it through the weekend. Best rate. And meantime, I'm going to pull this one out and get it all ready. To actually, I don't know if I want to do that until it gets here, because I have it on the ramps. Now, since I've paid $63, $64 for a radiator, I'm thinking about trying to keep my budget down below 100. So what I did is I might as well replace the upper and lower hoses. Of course, coolant's going to cost a little bit more too. So make sure whatever Jeep you have, okay, is covered in the dates right here, and what liter engine it is. Okay, so there's a lot of them. You're looking at the coolant hoses, you're looking at upper hose and lower hose, and very few are sold together, and when they are, it's like silicone, and they're very expensive. So what I'm going to do is go to my watch list, and I've collected some information here. There's two of them that you do like a bidding. When you're bidding for something, you look for if there's the same people too. Maybe you can get them in the same package. Okay. All these will be here on or before the same day. So what it looks like I'm going to do is probably this one right here and this one right here. This is the coolant hose. Okay, the lower, it fits the same thing as that, being the upper. So I can get both of them for about 25 bucks or so. All right, look over the radiator real well. There should be no collapsed, what I call veins in here. All right, these guys are the airway that comes through. If they're folded over, and a lot of home air conditionings are like that when something hits it, look on both sides and take a small flathead screwdriver and just work your way in there to straighten them out. All right, this could have been packed a little bit better to prevent that. Also, see all the foam packing that's all over this? I'm going to have to take a shop vac and vacuum all this off. There should be a plastic wrap over this to prevent that. There was some down inside with the drain, and I used a screwdriver to scoop it out. Not so happy that the drain plug does not have a valve like the old one does. I might have to take that off and put it on here. There is an overflow coming from the top over there. I don't know what all this hardware is for. I don't think my old one has these on, so I'm going to have to take a look at that. All right, so make sure you look at both sides and get all the white out. Vacuum, get your shop vac out and just suck all that stuff off. Make sure this thing is really clean before it goes in. I guess that's normally like that. No, on my Jeep up here has like a round area. I'll go show it to you if we go around the front of the Jeep. All right, right up here, see it has all these ribs that come over, and then there's a thing right here, all these ribs that come over. So it looks different from that. Maybe that's an improvement, I don't know. But one thing I noticed is this wide part right here that comes over on the side of the service port is shorter than the side that's over here. So if we go back, okay, here's the service port, and we look over here, this side is longer than this side over here. So that's some of the things you want to look it over and just make sure. I did this with the 2001 Malibu when I changed out the radiator on that. You know, when you get it in, there's a bargain deal of 64 bucks, but you got to make sure that it's going to fit good. Okay, so just things to look out. This is a major component. All right, so the second item of the 4 or 5 things I ordered, got the gasket in for the thermostat on Monday. Here it is Tuesday. This shows up, and I'm expecting everything else within the next couple of days. You can see all the drops underneath the radiator, right in here. So right here's your valve. My engine is extremely cold. I just had to put it up on the ramps. So what you're going to do is counterclockwise, I think. And make sure the bucket's underneath. I do care about the environment. I'm on a gravel driveway real close to the water, so we're gonna, I don't want to get the camera wet neither. So and it's raining down my arm now too. That's okay. Got a headlight on, headlamp on. I was really hoping that would come out another spout, but I've done this before. I have about 258,000 miles on the Jeep. I love it. Okay, here it goes. Get as much as you can. Whoa! I know I got it on the camera too. That came rushing out, so just be ready for it. that came rushing out. That's brand new coolant I just put in because I thought it was just overheating. That's brand new, and I can't go put it back in. But oh well. Oh man. All right, I'm going to leave the cap off of the drain. Leave that there while I'm doing the hoses and stuff. On step 1 right there, disconnect negative battery, negative cable of battery. Never had to do that for this, even the first time. I'm not doing anything with electricity, so it's up to you to be safe. Go ahead and do that. Just don't forget to put it back on when you're finished. After draining it, go ahead and disconnect this guy. Just wiggle it back and forth. That's your overflow. Disconnect that. We're going to have to take it off the bracket too. That's going to come off along with the fan shroud. Take your cap off. This was already loose because it was drained. I've already disconnected it from the thermocouple housing. All right, you want to. There is a tool that's used in the book. It says a big warning. All right, adjust it to where you can get a good grip on it. Just crank it down and wiggle it back to get it off. Might have to adjust even more, but should be able to do this. Let me set this down, and yeah, might have to adjust it down one more. Okay, make it tighter. All right, get a closer grip. There we go. It's really loose. All right, just watch out you don't get your fingers under there. You got to wiggle it loose though. And get that off. All right, this is a good time to replace these hoses too. Here's an idea. If they absolutely won't budge, take a screwdriver without piercing the rubber or the radiator and just work the rubber away from the radiator, and you'll hear some crinkling sound, some crackling. That's the substance in there, and then you'll get movement in there and be able to back it off. All right, so actually it's coming off pretty quick, pretty easy right now. All right, and there it is. All right, not going to worry about cleaning that because I'm changing the radiator. Now your lower hose has the same kind of clamp. Luckily it's face down. Make sure your bucket is moved over underneath it because there might be some fluid in that on that bottom part of that hose. Fluid did come out. Caught me a little bit by surprise again, but it did come out. I did have the bucket there, and luckily I have the camera behind me this time. All right, you need to take this shroud off. This big shroud underneath. All right, and these guys right here. What you're going to do is use the screwdriver to keep wiggling it back and forth and pulling it out. You got to take 4 of them out. There's one there, one there, one there, and one over there. All right, so you need to take that out. That's the first step. Okay, next, remove 4 shroud bolts. They're number, let's see what we got here. Number 11, I think. 11 millimeter. Fits just fine. Okay, so remove them. There's one there, one on the bottom, one on the top, one on the bottom. You're going to need an extension to get to the bottom bolts. I'll tell you right now, on the driver's side, to get that shroud off, to get to the screws, you got to take your reservoir off. The children's book does not tell you this. So right where that hole is, there's a soft button that's part of this. You push that in, and you lift this guy straight out. In fact, it just went back down, and that's the button down there. I don't know if you can see it real good. There's the button right there that you have to push in and lift up at the same time. All right, go ahead and move the shroud back over the fan. All right, we have a line here that's not in the Chilton manual, but nevertheless, there's 6 screws or bolts that have to come out. We have to remember to put this back on, whatever it goes to. I'm not sure what it's for, but it's there, and I always put things back where they belong. All right, you can see down here where's the issue, like something hit, and that's just falling apart. That's pretty nasty. We're going to take a look at this. That's probably where it's leaking right there, right over there, and up here somewhere. Hey guys, 10 millimeter for these screws. That's a good size for that. On the bottom screw on the driver's side, be very patient with it. You might have to take your socket off the socket wrench, put it on first, then put the socket wrench over it. You're only spinning it about 1 or 2 clicks at a time, courtesy of the outstanding engineering of putting something in the way of a wrench. It's pretty obvious that you're not going to see this, but after you turn it a couple of times, leave the socket on there, take the socket wrench off, reach your hand down there, and just turn it counterclockwise and spin it the rest of the way out. Hey, do yourself a favor on the passenger side. Go for that bottom screw first. It's the hardest one to get to, and do the top screw last. On the other side, what I did was the top one first, and what that did was get that tube out of the way over there. So if you have that tube, that's the best way. All right, on the passenger side, you have to reach your arm down between the shroud. Excuse me while I get the lens cap out of the way. The shroud and the radiator, and manipulate just the extension with the bit on it over that. Now the problem is keeping it on there is a different story. All right, so it has dropped a couple of times, and we need to lift up to get the wrench on that. We have to lift up the shroud above that and come in from behind, which is going to be a lot of fun. I knocked it off last time I lifted the shroud up, so just be patient. If you need to take a break, go ahead and do that. Hey everybody, put the ratchet going down with the handle down. You have a lot more swing room, and it comes off a lot faster down there. Tell you one thing nice about a Jeep is it has its own shelf to put your screws. All right. Now, if you have any other plumbing down there going to your transmission or anything else, air conditioning, I don't know what else there would be, but there is some ports down there that that's on the new one that I need to plug up. Okay, it's ready to be pulled out. I can't have the camera running at the same time I do this, but you're going to pull it straight up and out. Well, I tell you what, it seemed like everything was combating me. Getting this out, it turned out to be the screws that that hold the shroud in. All right, so it's out. Look at that damage. Let's see the side that actually was leaking. That's where the green is. So that's probably where most of it was coming out, right where that green. But look at this. Okay, now down at the bottom, there's two ports right there. All right, on the new one, there's stuff in that ports. So those are servicing ports. All right, if you have all these little white things all over from the foam that was packaging this thing, and you're using the shop vac, whether a nozzle or not, do the padding. Do the sucking padding, because if you go along like this, you're going to cause things like that. It's just more work for you to do to straighten them out. Alrighty, once you get the new, you got to set it in there and get it lined up. Get the first the top bolts in there. Okay. Something I want to show you is this little guy comes off right about where that arm is down there. All right, you need to take this off. If you have a four-cylinder, four-cylinder, you're probably going to keep it on. If you have a straight six like I have, 4.0, you need to take this off. Okay, you're not going to get this installed because that little thing right there is in the way. All right, so you need to take this guy off. Some of these radiators that are sold for this model to this model will have things that are on 3 breakaway points, and you're able to take it off. All right, put it into your metal recycle if you do that. All right, I hate throwing things like that in the landfill that never decay. The caps, if you don't have your hoses in yet, keep the caps off. Okay, I'm going to put a rag down that or something to stop bugs and all that. The bottom one, you could probably see it if you look hard enough past the fan. It fell off the bottom water access point, or coolant access point. Anyway, I'm going to grab that and put it back on that until the hoses come in. All right, while you're putting the radiator on, okay, make it to where you can kind of get all the screws in place, kind of finger tighten them down. All right, because you don't want to tighten one side down and not be able to move it a little bit to line up the other holes. Tighten down your the bottom one on the passenger side first. Make sure your tool is on the down position because you can get more swing on the bottom to actually tighten that screw down there. Okay, 2 things I need to tell you about putting the shroud on. It's a brand new radiator. It's not specifically for this model. It's for a range of models. So the holes that are drilled for your self-tapping screws to go into is the first time you're using those. So you have to put pressure on them and get them started before you can actually crank them all the way down. Now, even though you think it might be tight, if that washer down there keeps rotating around, it's not tight. So make sure they're all tightened down. All right, you're going to take your old one and take a look at how it's sat. All right, so that's how this one's got to be sitting in. So make sure your clamps here are in a position that you can actually access them when you want to bring them down. All right, both of them are on top. Now keep in mind that if you get this backwards, this is a smaller one than this. This will not fit on that big one. This is meant for the small one. These are 2 different sizes. So you have to put it on only one way. So slide it down. I might have to spin that. I might spin this thing just a little bit more. That clamp I won't be able to gain 100% access. So I'm going to spin it just a little bit more. You might have to tweak yours so you can gain access to it. All right, that's all the way down. You don't want to bring that clamp down yet, because when you spin this, the hose. Okay, we need to back off just a little bit so we can get this guy on. Slide it on all the way. That's all the way down. That one's all the way down. We have a little kink right here. Hope that's not going to be an issue. Okay, it worked out. It's almost like the hose might be just a little bit long. That should be okay. All right, that's good. All right, so take your clamps. And bring them all the way down. There's a knuckle right there. And you bring them over that knuckle. And that's on. You need to do the same thing down there. You can see it's protruding quite a bit. So you need to bring it over that knuckle. Let's see if I can grab this thing. I really hope I don't have to take it apart again. That would be discouraging. All right. And you got a lot of room there. When that comes down, you got a lot of room. Work it around, get it in there. It's going through, it's going between your, it's not down all the way. You know, I don't like how that's actually pressing up against that, and it's kind of buckled right there. So it is kind of long. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off and I'm going to saw it. You know, I should have saw this before I even put it on. Okay, so if you put this over the two, okay, it looks like it's long enough going back, but look how far down. That's tremendous. That's a lot. That's almost 2 inches coming off, and I don't even know if it's going to fit off if I cut off that 2 inches. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. I might actually cut down toward the housing area. Oh, that's much I had to cut off. That's about 2 inches of hose that I had to cut off. And take a look at this. Does that look so much better? I mean, clearance there, it's not kinked up, it's a straight line. Clamps work just fine. It goes all the way down. Fantastic, I think. We'll see what happens when I put pressure on it. All right, another engineering feat. Right there, underneath this belt, the wheel, is where the clamp is. Oh, 1 week later, to the day, I finally get the lower hose. But I got to get the hose off and take a look at it, make sure that I'm going to definitely measure it, make sure it's good after what happened in the top hose, make sure everything is good and kosher before I put it on. Okay, I'm going to try and explain how I did this, even though you can't really see it too well. It's right in here. Anyway, you come by and access where the overflow was, and you have to be on the forward side of the belt and grab that and try turning it down to where it's in here. So I had to manipulate to come around, and once I got a hold of it, I was able to wiggle it back and get it off that thing. But what a pain in the rear. I'm thinking about changing the type of clamp that's on that when it goes back on, because I just don't want to have to finagle to get it back on. I'll just put a collar, screw type clamp on there, like the good old fashioned cars like my old Mustang used to have. Okay, the next thing to do, even though you can't see it, all right, underneath the power steering, grab the hose, wiggle it back and forth. You can probably see it down there. I don't know. It's down there somewhere. You can see it backing off and it's off. It's all free. It's free floating down there. I'm going to just drop it and hopefully go the rest of the way. Okay, let's line it up. New one, old one. Okay. Right there to that bend is good. From that bend to this bend is good. That bend to this elbow is good. And it looks to me like it's about 1 inch too long. I am not taking any chances. I'm clipping off 1 inch. And you thought I was kidding, huh? Just had to find one that fit right. This is probably just a little bit big, but it has some thread left over, just a little bit. I think I can tighten that down. It's pretty tight right now all the way around. So we'll see how that works out. Alright, I just want to make sure that that's not going to hit a belt or something when it's in there. I was dead serious when I said I was going to put this guy in. So I don't think it's going against any, vehicle codes, if there's any. All right, it's just, man, what a pain in the rear end that thing was getting out, and I do not want to go through putting it back in. All right, you see it? It's right there. Okay, I had to get it from down this way, and once I got the socket on there, I was able to crank it right here. And thank goodness the reservoir I took out made it so much easier. It was just, the only thing is I had to loosen up a whole lot to get over that hump that's on the block side. So it's definitely locked in there really good. So, well, hopefully that's a good idea for you. It relieves a lot of problems as far as getting it back on. That's the biggest pain in the rear end around. All right, now I did hook up the bottom to the radiator side. So make sure both of your keyways, that's a keyway right there. There's one on the bottom. Make sure it's in spot, and then you need to push in a whole lot because the pressure button, that round thing right there, is pushing out. So push that down, lock it in, and that's the release right there to get it back out. You're pushing that to get it out. All right, hook this guy back up here. If your cap came off, make sure you put your cap back on. Hey, just in case you did what I did and forget about putting this guy on, no big deal. You may have to take your overflow out again. It's laying on the bottom. You can just thread it up inside. You don't have to deinstall anything else. Okay, and then unscrew this and put the coupling in there, and then or the clamp in there, and then go ahead and screw it back on. Not really sure what it's for, what the use is, but you don't want it just wiggling around down there while you're driving. Well, I'm getting ready to put Freon in. Okay, one thing that I never really understand is why you have to get a new radiator cap when you put a new radiator on. As long as it works, the pressure works and everything, when you push this in, it bounces back, you should be okay. So it's up to you if you want to get a new one. I'm going to use, I'm using the 50/50. Now the nice thing about this is you can get the 100% one over here, the red cap. Okay, and then make your second one. It's going to take the Jeep Wrangler 2001 Sahara takes 6 quarts of this stuff, so it's 1.5 gallons. And so you're going to buy 1 gallon, then you can make your other half gallon out of that. Now during filling, if you've done any other work like working on the thermostat or hoses or anything else, your radiator hoses or any of that kind of stuff, you want to take a look at that for any static leaks. Okay, if you hear dripping on the floor, onto your gravel, onto your pavement or anything like that, take a look around while you're filling. You want to fill up above the grids in there, above the coils and everything, and that should be fine. Go ahead and cap it off. All right, remember, when this is warm, you never take it off when it's warm, okay? Wish I had the video. I did it just to try and capture it, and once again, good old ADH kicked in. I didn't have the camera rolling, but it was a good little spotted shot about, I'd say about 4 or 5 feet up. It was pretty impressive. All right, so anyway, I'm not going to fill this guy up to the fill line yet until I run the road test on this to make sure everything's working good, the thermostat's working good that I put in there, the radiator is working good, not leaking. Okay, so that's going to be the overall test of everything. Well, seems like the radiator is working good. No leaks. No leaks on the bottom, which is really nice. I don't smell any antifreeze. It's really nice. Okay, so hope you liked the video. That it came in. The hissing that you hear is my K&M filter. I actually should have cleaned that while this thing's been down waiting for parts. Stupid me, I guess. All right, but hey, at least the radiator's working good. All right, hope you liked the video and it helps you out. Here's an oh, by the way, hey, don't forget to fill up your reservoir to there with coolant and water. Okay, mix, 50-50 mix.